So, I've been a little busy lately. The world has gotten crazy. Okay, so you've probably noticed there's a bit of a distance difference. I had to move some things. Part of that is the air conditioner I had built into the wall, and it broke. So my air conditioner stopped working on 2 of the hottest days in the whole summer. And so I had to rip it out of the wall and replace it with another unit that I had to screw into the frickin' wall. Oh, God, that was such a pain in the ass. I'm so exhausted. I've been in, 3 days in 90 plus, 97, 98 degree temperatures, and I'm sure this room got up to 105. And I had to demolition, repair, rebuild, and reinstall the air conditioning without any air conditioning. So that was a fun little adventure. But in the part of doing that, the majority of things in this room had to be moved around. So I am so tired. And I really wish certain people would stop waking me up by knocking on my door 4 hours after I went to sleep. I'm not going to be pissy about stupid things right now. We're going to focus on the things we're enjoying and we're interested in. So here, let's move this a little bit closer so you can read me a little bit better. Okay, so part of what I've been doing lately is I'm kind of curious to see if this makes a difference audio-wise. Is it different now? There we go. That's the room sound. Do you hear that buzz? That's his air conditioner. That's his air conditioner making sound in my room. It's one of my pet peeves of other things going on right now. Anyway, it is what it is. So let's play a little bit there. So one of the things that I've been doing in the meantime, when I haven't had the ability to A, shoot video, and B, when it's been too hot to be in this room, has been, I discovered that VidCon, Gen Con, and what was the other one? San Diego Comic-Con are all going on right about now. So VidCon, I would have gone to VidCon this year if they were holding it. They canceled the VidCon at the convention center in LA. But they've done what's called VidCon Now, or something of that effect. And it is basically, you can sign up to attend panels and stuff online. And they're handling some of that stuff through Discord and a website with videos that you can access and watch. And then the San Diego Comic-Con has a more specific setup for their website. So VidCon is YouTube videos and Discord predominantly. And the videos go live at a certain point, and then they disappear, only to be edited and placed up again later if they would decide to do that. Not all of them do get put up again later as an edited video. So that's been kind of interesting to see how they did that. Whereas San Diego Comic-Con was the one who did the website with click-through for their videos. You can watch them live during the day after. So basically, I built a big schedule of things that I was interested in doing. I can see if I can pull that up here. So con schedule. So what I watched when I built the list out of things I wanted to see, Thursday, the 23rd, was a Comic-Con panel called How to Get News Coverage. And then that was 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., but that was Pacific time. I had to learn that one. And then Thursday, the 23rd at 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. was Artist Boot Camp for DeviantArt, how to get your stuff up and running, how to refresh and get going on artwork again. Now, many of these panels were not quite what I thought they were. The descriptions could use a little benefit, a little bit of specifying a little bit better. So like the Artist Boot Camp by DeviantArt, if I remember correctly, that was more of a talking with 3 different artists about how they get started when they're struggling to get working on artwork, and a little bit less of a sort of a workshop to prompt you into doing more. But I had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things I wanted to attend on that Thursday. It happened to be that because the Pacific time and Atlantic and Pacific time were different enough that most of the 2 p.m. Class on Thursday was 5 p.m. here. That one, I think, was one I couldn't quite attend to, but that's just the second one on that day. Every subsequent thing after that, I was able to attend when I wanted to. But the thing I discovered early on was these are the San Diego Comic-Con panels, and their panel setup was one where if you were interested in it, you could attend it live, but if you clicked through on the link that asked you if you wanted to attend it live and sign up beforehand, if you didn't, there was underneath watch when it becomes available. I click on that link and I could watch them anytime during that day. And so I did. I watched all those panels that day. They had panels for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So they had a 4-day video convention. And I think Friday there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I wanted to go to. And then Saturday was 1, 2, 3, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I attended on Saturday. Sunday was the massive number of them. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think I did 12 or 13 panels on Sunday. And they're all about an hour long. So it was about 13 hours of content that, of course, I didn't watch them all at 1-to-1 speed ratio. Many of them I jumped up to about a 1.5. So I got through it a little bit faster, but some of it was really good content. And let's see, some of it was like, it's kind of interesting to see what, and a lot of the focus this time around was how are the industries, how are the individual creators, how are the concepts and ideas behind certain games and stories being changed by the current pandemic. And I'm like, that's, I'm interested in about 5 minutes of that maybe each time. My interest isn't how is everybody dealing with the pandemic. Like, I want to know, like, if you wanted to do something about that, how post-pandemic are we going to start seeing changes in the structure and modeling of sales and marketing for certain types of products? I would watch that as a panel, but I don't need every panel to be talking about, like, how did that affect your indie film industry, and then just going on and on about how you were at home with your spouse. Like, I'm not particularly worried about it. I don't care how some comic artist in France feels about working from home for 3 months. That, if I were interested in the life and whatnot of that particular artist, yeah, maybe I'd watch it. But what I want to know is, if this becomes the standard model for how industries have to adapt. Because one of the things we're seeing right now is, for game development or comics or indie films. Indie films are struggling right now because you can't get groups of people together to film a video. And then you can't network in the same workspace with somebody to edit the content afterwards. And you're not going to be able to show your movie at a local theater or anything like that because theaters aren't accessible in some places. And so how is that affecting the industry? And going forward, if we're stuck in this pandemic for the next year, as some cases seem to indicate, then what are we doing as an industry to adapt to the circumstances? I want to see a discussion of, what is the indie film going to do? Are they going to do a lot more composite green screen work where individual actors can set up green screens in their own home studios, and they can read their scripts and act out their parts and have like a green suit with markings on it in blue or red or whatever, and somebody like me can then take those downloaded files sent from the actor and use digital effects to add costuming and backdrops to it, and it's down to the actor and screen the image control, so audio, image control, and special effects, to composite it all in a usable fashion. Is that something we should look at? Is that something we're pursuing more? There weren't a lot of panels that really went to that depth. So that's something I'd be interested in. But there were enough interesting things in there. Some of it was talking about, and I did get very interested in indie film development recently. And there's some potential to play in some of that environment. Some of it was also about the history of how to go from idea to published novel. And some of that was interesting to hear, the different paths. One of them was specifically talking about the traditional paths one takes to do some of this stuff. So like the big, I think 5 or 6 publishing houses, small press versus self-publishing and print on demand, which aren't always the same thing. And so it was kind of interesting to hear some of the discussion of what the differences between some of that are, and learn some of the tricks and techniques of certain genres of content creator on how they are networking and getting some of their content out there. There was enough interesting stuff in there that I was kind of curious about attending many of them. And VidCon stuff was, for the most part, it was interesting to realize that VidCon had less for me than San Diego Comic-Con. And Gen Con hasn't started yet. Gen Con starts on Thursday. And it looks like Gen Con is doing theirs as panels you can attend in Twitch and Zoom. And you sign up beforehand, and you get into those panels, and you attend them live, which theoretically I should be able to do, because I think I've got the days that they're doing it off. It won't be as easy as Comic-Con's panels were ones that I could, any time during that day, hop on and watch the video after it was done. That was useful. I really like that idea. And going forward, thinking about the idea, I talked last year, I think, with one of the guys at VidCon about the possibility of doing virtual conventions. And the idea, not because we were in a pandemic, but simply because for a lot of local video creators, coming out to California or going out to California is not an easy thing to do. The flight, where you're staying, your food for the time, your transportation from where you're staying to the convention, you're talking easily, like if you stay at the convention center or at the hotels near it, you're talking about probably $700 a night. And then the ticket price for the convention, I think, was another $100. And then a flight there would be easily $300 to $600, depending on how you do it. So in the long run, that's a major endeavor. And for a smaller creator, that's not as plausible. Whereas being able to do an online convention where your ticket price for attending the convention is like $25, and our costs for doing it would be, if we're doing predominantly panels and workshops with smaller creators, it would be negligible. It's literally just shooting videos and making them exclusively available at the time of the convention. So I do think that's a viable option for doing virtual conventions. I'll be very curious to see how this stuff for Gen Con works. I think the other thing I have appreciated about how Comic-Con did was I worked every single day that they had the San Diego Comic-Con events. But when I got out of work, I could attend those panels. So it didn't require me to take a week off for a 4-day convention. And that was useful. I see that as a viable approach to doing things maybe in the future. And I learned a fair bit about some of these conventions, and there's also some of these convention panels and workshops. When they were done, I was sort of left saying, well, I didn't learn what I wanted to learn from this panel. I learned some interesting things, and I heard some interesting things, but that's not what I thought we were getting when I came into this one. And so I still have some unanswered questions. And so that gives me ideas for what panels I want to see and how I want them to turn out. So I kind of think that would be totally worth doing. The VidCon stuff had a fair amount of, and to be fair, VidCon is a wide spectrum convention. So like they did health and fitness stuff, they did beauty industry stuff. They did a couple of other, like, and some of it was just like Q&A with your favorite content creators, and none of them are people I even know. They're nobody I've ever seen. And so I'm like, I don't need to see that. And so there's a fair amount that went on at VidCon so far that wasn't of huge interest to me. There were 5 or 6 that I was interested in. So non-algorithm based funding, alternative revenue services. Now, both of those I likely know most of what they're going to say, but just out of curiosity to see different perspectives, different approaches to how they do it, and maybe the occasional new idea popping in. There was one called "How to Make Your Library, Your Content Library Work for You." That one was a partnership concept of certain industries that partner with content creators to buy some of their back videos and use it as content for going forward. And so it was talking about how to build your back library in a way that's potentially saleable for another thing. Now that's something I'm probably never going to do and have little interest or fascination for, but I am curious enough about what it is they're talking about to explore what they're talking about. Because if anything, we know at this point I'm likely to take it and use it not as intended. There was a panel on how to use your phone as a one-stop film shop, and how to build, there was another one, how to build a home production studio. Both of those I could probably do without watching these. I already understand the concepts well enough to do it myself. But again, it's always interesting to see how somebody else did something. So those are basically, I think, most of what I pulled up. I think I have a few others that I pulled up just in the last day or so. So, okay, one of the ones I was curious about was grow your community through interactive, personalized videos from the safety of, and it's safety of home. So it was basically a sponsored presentation by a company that has some software that allows you to do something, and I was really curious about that. There was another one that was creating content with cutting edge technology. So I was kind of curious to see what they call cutting edge and what they're doing with it. Work culture adjustment. And yeah, that was pretty much it. There's another behind the scenes mastering the new world of interactive storytelling. And there was a book, what's your favorite book, with an author who's pitching his newest novel or whatever. And then a panel about producing during lockdown that are still coming up. Now, the thing about VidCon right now is they've been going for 4 weeks, not 4 days, 4 weeks, where they release a little bit each day. So to me, I kind of like that model. And I'm kind of curious to see if they get a whole month-long convention out of this. Gen Con is, I believe, what do we got here? Gen Con is July 30th through August 2nd. So it's like 4 days. But they have packed a lot. And I have basically just built a list of the free things that I'm interested in attending. Because they do have ones that you can pay to join. And I'm not interested in that. Like, I have more than enough to keep me busy right now. So what the script writing for videos, producing an independent series. Like, I did a script a while ago for the pilot of a TV series idea just for one of my online classes that I do. And it'd be interesting to see producing an independent series, what their advice would be if I wanted to do this as an independent series here, rather than go through a big studio. A guide to branding your game, your business, and yourself. Curious to see about branding. It's something I don't do well because I'm hesitant about it. I find it kind of tacky. Because I like my stuff to be something to create and share. And branding is literally about selling. And I'd like to make some money from some of my projects in the future, but I don't want to be making things just to sell them. And so there's a little bit of, I know I'm probably shooting myself in the foot with some of that, but that's something I can figure out ways to work together on branding and being creative without necessarily being mercenary about it. So a panel of industry professionals gathered together to address some of the most common and maybe not so common questions about creating and marketing board game media content. So that would be something a little bit about some of the board games I already created and my options. And again, this is probably going to be more of, that's how they do it. I'm going to take what they've talked about, some of the suggestions, break them, and use them in new and interesting ways. And I've already been playing with some game design ideas in the back of my head in the last few days anyway. I'll tell you briefly about one of them. I in my encounters previously on the internet, I encountered a unique role-playing game, I guess we could call it, that uses a specialized medallion or a challenge coin with hundreds of symbols on front and back of it. It's not hundreds, but it's something like 36 different symbols on it. And you do some sort of flip, flick, twist, spin, whatever you need to do on a certain charted board, and it falls on a certain pattern, and you decipher that pattern for the intent that you used it for. And it's this single coin that, used in many different ways in many different scenarios, will get you different answers depending on the questions you're asking. And it's like, okay, it's interesting, and there are aspects of that I'm curious about, but from what I could understand, they made a mess of it. The creators of this game made an absolute mess of it. And I'm sort of kind of curious about taking some of the ideas and doing it right, doing it differently enough that it's done right. So it's a little bit more like casting runes. But I'd be curious to see, like, what kind of modes can I do that in? Because honestly, if I were to try to take this concept and play with it in a different way, what I'd probably end up doing is multiple coins. And depending on the goal, so if you're doing an attack, you'd use these coins. If you're doing defense, it'd be these coins. If you're doing a skill challenge, it's these coins, such and such. So you'd have like 4 or 5 different types of coins that you could use for this. And depending on your level or your skill or your capabilities in that aspect, you would use more of that one coin. So what comes to mind in that is, I could easily publish free rules on how to play this, and 4 coins: pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters. That's all you'd need. And heads or tails of binary choices. I could make custom sets of coins if people wanted to, but you could literally download the rules, take a pocket full of change, and play a game with it. And I like that idea better. But having that option to then see if I could get a company to do a limited run of custom coins that could be used in those steads. And the thing about the custom coins would be they're not just things you can use for this game. If I made a set of coins with a skull on front of one of them and a pair of crossed swords on the back of it, that's one coin. And then another coin might be a dragon, and on the back of it a burning fire, or a phoenix. And then another coin with, I don't know, just something distinct. And you could use them, you could buy a bunch of them, a set of them, and use them as in-game currency for a gameplay. But you can also use them for playing roles to randomize events in a game. So figuring out how to use the marketing and sales approach that most people would use for a standard tabletop game and adapt it for my free-to-play, free-to-learn, free rules. If you want to support the game or the creator, you can then purchase customized sets or Patreon me a support for what you think it was worth learning about this game. So I'm hoping that that's what this panel would have, is the board game development and sales game. There's also a short yet informative panel that breaks down common areas of RPG character sheets and discusses the ways that these areas can be used to therapeutic impact. So it's basically education, skill building, and therapy through tabletop games, and specifically role-playing games. And so I'm definitely curious about that. World building for custom role-playing games, and film budget and finance panel. I'm very curious about that. Now, immediately, they're probably going to tell you, like, bare minimum, you're going to need about $800 to $5,000 for the cheapest production you could do for an indie film. I'm going to say, bullshit. I'm willing to bet you for under $150 I could make a film. And if I can edit it in HitFilm and learn enough about the avenues for submission and production to sell a film, I think I would love that challenge. I would love to see how well I could do with that challenge. And film pre-production. Game adaptation for your own ends. Sound production for film. So do you need to clean up audio in your film project, or are talkies just a fad? Learning from veteran filmmakers how to do it right. This panel will take place in Zoom. So that's what they're doing with a lot of these panels. Game design, how to get your foot in the door and find success. I'm just curious to see what they have to say. Film post-production panel. Yeah, you can see I'm leaning heavily in the direction of indie film development, because I'm very curious about it now. From concept to creation of a world. For aspiring writers and creators, where to start, how do I find my genre? Tommy will share his book and new mini game with Mythic, which is one of the role-playing games we've talked about before, to offer, and then it says, to offer insight on how to take an idea from concept to creation. I'd be very curious to hear from this creator. It's one of those games that I do wish to explore in the near future. What's this one? Promoting your film via social media. So again, indie film. And these are all free panels that I can attend if I sign up for them. Game design for stay-at-home play. As a well-known member of the RPG community, Ivan Van Norman has been working on game concepts that bring people together. Utilizing technology and thoughtful game design, the panel will chat about rethinking and expanding gaming. So I'm curious to see what they think they can do that's different and unique and takes into account the at-home, perhaps virtual play, directing film, and creating better villains. I'm just kind of curious about that one, to be honest. This one is, it's probably one that I could afford to miss if it comes up. But I'm curious enough to give it a try. And it looks like most of these are Eastern date time when on their dates. So they're going to be I organized them by their day and time and a timeline. So it's going to be pretty busy. But the other thing that I will say is VidCon, as much as it's spreading it out over like a month, maybe more, they are also really using Discord. So the Discord server for VidCon is broken into tiers, which I think was fairly arbitrary at this point, because the tickets for attending VidCon this year were free. So if you wanted to be a community member, it's free. If you wanted to be a creator level, it's free. If you wanted to be industry level, it's free. Now, usually a community member attendee gets access to only content for community members. So it's usually attending panels of certain stars that talk about what they're doing. Meet and greets, convention floor, maybe make a plushie or something like that. Those are pretty standard community level. It's for fans is what that is. The creator level is a little more expensive as a ticket goes, but not hugely so. It's like, I think it was like $100 for a ticket last time. I do tend to buy it the year before, so it costs me less. That's an early bird cost. But the industry panels are something I've never had access to before, because it's like $500 to $700 to get access to those. And that's the cheap version of them. That's when you buy them early. And I'm like, I'm never going to justify spending $500 to $700 for panels I don't even know for sure are going to be useful to me. But this year, it's free. So I signed up for the industry level. It's completely free to me. Okay, let's see what you got this level. And the more I see, I don't need to ever really pay for an industry level ticket. I don't think they're going to offer me anything substantial that rewards me for the cost. Not at the level of content I produce. I don't produce, at this time, I do not produce movie quality or television episode quality content for an audience of over 200,000 fans. That's sort of, to me, that's the point where you're going to see enough of a turnaround. And the reason that somebody might pay that price is because you're going to network with other people on that level. So big names in YouTube, you'll be able to share a green room with at certain points. Chat with, arrange collaborations, and in those same rooms are going to be companies and brands of merchandise that want to woo you and will arrange a sponsorship deal at certain points. That's the turnaround on that. Most of that model is something I don't want to do, so it doesn't really hold a lot of draw for me. but I'm having a little bit of fun exploring the possibilities while it's free and virtual. But half of that, I can do networking on the creator level that doesn't require the huge ticket price. So I'm good with most of that. But the Discord channels, they've split up into those different groups. So I don't know if you've used Discord or not yet, but so their Discord has information, rules, and more, which is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chat rooms with information that they post in there. Ask Me Anything, which I still haven't figured out why they bothered having that be a separate category, but they've got 4 different rooms on that one. And then community level is things like VidCon in Espanol, Expo Floor, DIY Society, which I may participate in as we go a little bit further and I have a little more free time. Game Recognize Game. I don't know what that one's about. I muted some of these channels because I frankly don't care. Fashion Hall, muted that one. Out and Proud, cool for them. I don't have anything to contribute, and I don't think any of them are going to contribute anything to what I'm doing, so I support them, but I don't need to be attending anything in there. Animators Corner, I'm not an animator, so I'm not doing a lot with that. Polls, not too worried about that. Your favorite book, that's one I did play around with a bit. Mind, Body, and Wellness, I didn't mute it, but I don't do anything with it. Plug your channel, that's sort of self-advertising. I haven't plugged my channel because I don't feel the need to. Fandom Unlimited or Fandom United, I'm not sure what they're doing there. Good Guys of Gaming, which is, I guess, a certain group of people, so they're looking for their fans to show up. Proud Together, which if you've already got one Pride channel, I don't know why you need 2, but Blessive is another creator who has his own channel. Voter Education, I don't know why we have that in there. Some of that's like interesting that they've decided to include these channels. Night of Awesome was an event. Using Digital Platforms was another event. I don't know why they haven't subsumed those channels. And then we move into the creator channels, which is Ask VidCon, Creators Lounge, which is just like a general chat, Home Studio, Help Me on Instagram, Help Me on TikTok. So it's helping you work that system a little bit better. And those creator channels are only open to people who signed up for a creator level account or industry level account. So any level of account that you have, you get that level and anything under it. So community is the bottom. You don't get access to creators and industry lounges. But so Ask VidCon, the help on channels, advice, and a networking channel, which is something I do plan to try to use a little bit more of. Industry channels has a networking channel, industry lounge, brainstorming channel, which I had a little bit of fun with. Content, influencer marketing, brand content, hiring, advice, and certain specialty ones, and then workshops have some of their own channels. So they've got a huge list of different rooms that you can go into for the Discord and talk with other creators, other community members, other industry members about different things, learn, chit chat, arrange to maybe help each other out with different projects, maybe even collaborative video content. I pitched an idea on one of the, I think it was the book one, the idea of doing a writer's collab where we sort of do almost like a Yankee swap, where we have a hat full of ideas for stories or characters or writing prompts. We just jumble all that up and people draw from the hat, and that's their item, that's their story, that's the thing they have to write a story about. And if somebody else likes that idea, they can take that idea, and the person whose idea was taken gets to draw another one. And so it's Yankee Swap. It's something you do for gift exchanges. And I think it would be maybe a fun mechanism for story idea exchanges. But that's something I've been dabbling with, and I proposed, and I have one or two people who are maybe potentially interested. It'd be fun to try to do as a series of collaborative videos or cooperative videos. I'm not sure how we would shoot that yet. It might be kind of fun to figure out how to do that. Anyway, so that was, VidCon has been doing that with their Discord. Comic-Con did not have an easy to find, if they had one at all, they did not have a Discord account that I could find. Gen Con is, in fact, doing a Discord. And I need to explore a little bit of that tonight, I think, as I go. But in general, it's been kind of interesting to explore virtual conventions and the approaches they're doing to that. And some of the fascination I've gotten from some of the panels, excuse me, good Lord. Some of the fascination I've gotten from some of the panels has led me to explore some of my ideas in new ways. So I've written, I think we were working on last year, one of the first things we did was I scripted out a thing for an animation. That animation is probably never going to see fruition now, because even the little bits that I explored doing before, they're gone. They're lost in the hard drive. So I'd have to restart any of that again. I'm not super excited about doing that, but I'm pretty sure I could shoot that as a video short. And so I'm kind of curious to see, like, if I explored some of those ideas a little bit further, could I expand on that and do like a full-length movie? Some of them maybe horror. And I do have some scripts that I wrote, not necessarily as a script. There was one story idea that I was going on at one point that I kept going back and forth as to whether or not I wanted to do it as a movie, if I wanted to do it as a short story, a graphic novel. I couldn't figure out. I could even potentially do it as a video game. I just couldn't really figure out which way I wanted to do that. And, you know, it's possible that I could do it as a movie. I'd have to change some things about the script, because one of the things that I'm really aware of right now is if I do movies, it's going to be really low budget, and I'm going to have to do some improvisation because I'm probably going to be the only actor for most of it. So it's going to be costuming up the wazoo to disguise the fact that I'm the same person over and over again, and a few other tricks. So, like, one of the stories that I was writing was an encounter with a robot. So if we built a robot costume, it's a person and a robot interacting in a certain set of scenes. I could do green screens and miniature sets and all that kind of stuff just fine, as long as any of the outfits or costumes that I do would disguise the fact that I will be the actor in all the roles. So you might do some different techniques for some of those things where, like, if you have somebody walking down a city street, there's this sort of an animation trick that they do in some animations where they do the character walking in the foreground, and all the other people in the background are done as silhouettes or just the basic shape of a human figure in different outfits. And so I can totally do that. There are techniques you can use in film editing where you could make a green screen. I could put on a set of clothes, walk past the green screen, edit it so that I'm in shadow the whole way, and then do that in 6 or 7 different outfits, and then do 2 versions of each of me walking in opposite directions. And you have a whole city street of people walking back and forth across the back of the screen. And they're just background characters. You never see their face. You never see some of their details. And so I could totally do something like that. And it's really more about the lead character and another character interacting. And you can do that as a series of interactions. Heck, if you do it right with some prosthetic makeup and some facial hair or shaved or a wig or some simple makeup changes, you can totally be at least a few people. If you look at Coming to America, an Eddie Murphy movie, Eddie Murphy did it a lot, actually. I think the Nutty Professor, he played the entire family. It's like, I could see doing something like that a little bit. And so a green screen, a lot of costuming and makeup, some editing tricks, and you can be your entire cast. You can do a one-man show. I was like, that could be kind of fun to try to do. But there are also other works that I would want to do that potentially I would have to rescript to limit the number of people in the cast. So, I mean, that's just some of the stuff on my mind. We're at 52 minutes. I can probably call it for tonight. Leave me a little stuff to talk about for tomorrow night before we maybe go back. Well, if I come back for tomorrow night, if there's not some other travesty of existence that gets in the way again. But for now, I'm going to call it for tonight because I think my feet are going numb. I need to get off this hard chair. And do a few other things before I try to get some rest tonight. I've had too many nights of like 5 hours of sleep. I wish certain people would not wake me up. That would be really nice. And I have a functioning air conditioner in again. So there's that. I fully expect there to be a fire sometime in the next 2 days. But for now, I'm calling it. Take care. Have a good night. Hopefully I didn't leave you too stranded on your own. And hopefully everything's going all right with you guys. Until then, take care and good night. Hunt and peck. I need to turn the AC back on. It's a little warm in here. All right. Catch you later. Stay sane in a crazy world, dude.